operating out of a small grass strip. I have to say that those runway lights coming out through the rain look very welcoming. The GoPro doesn't actually show just how heavy it was raining or how dark the skies were until perhaps we were down on the ground later on.
Okay, so the next part of the journey is John driving Raymond's car. So here we are, 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer since our journey, and we are arriving at Diest. Fly in by car. And we'll just check and see where we are, but yeah, destination almost reached.
Sunday morning, and well, we made it. We'd finally arrived at the 32nd Diest Fly Drive-In, and I think we probably were the only two people who actually did just that, having both flown and driven. The Oyster pilots that we'd met at breakfast took advantage of the good weather and left early for their flights home. As the Bulcos taxi for fuel, we look at the water that comes up from the sodden ground. No wonder we were pleased to have warm beds in a dry room and not have to camp overnight. Having arrived the day before in a grog that he's recently restored, Raymond arrived this morning in a very stylish stock. The weather was good, trade stands and exhibits were open, people had started to arrive, visiting aircraft were beginning to appear, but we needed to make a move. We still had the challenge of somehow getting back to Antwerp and collecting the aircraft. Once again, Guy and his volunteers came to the rescue and we were driven to the station. An €8.90 ticket got us to Antwerp's central station in just 50 minutes. It turned out to be a real eye-opener. Known as the Cathedral Station, it's reputed to be one of the best in the world. The old facade hiding a modern design with 3 levels of platforms. A short taxi ride and we were back at the airport and thanking the controller who'd helped us the day before. We checked the weather and filed a flight plan, phoned a GAR, which is a requirement when you're flying back to the UK, and we were driven across the apron to the hangar. As we lined up for takeoff, we heard Raymond on the radio, returning from Diest, wishing us a good flight home. We commented that in the event of an engine failure, there'd be nowhere to land, except perhaps for the river. It was a different flight back from the day before. The sky was clear and the clouds were high. We both sat back and compared the difference between the 2 days. Sky Demon showed us at the boundary between French and English airspace, and as we neared the coast of Dover, the cloud had started to build. But there again, this was England. The typical creek patterns told us we were nearly home, and it wasn't long before we were back and putting the aircraft away in the hangar. An epic mini journey, but thanks to all the people that we'd met over the weekend and who'd helped us. We have taken the RV back to Diest on a number of times to subsequent events within the same category of the Old Timers Fly Drive-In. I've put links to those in the description below, but what I have done is I've given you just a little bit of idea of some of the things that happened on the various times that we visited. Have a look, and if you're interested, dig into the playlists and see for yourself.
Those are the ex-Dutch Navy training aircraft. I did that a couple of years ago.
Die kant een kijkje te gaan nemen. Dus met de motorzwever, die kans hebt u.
in Dutch it is een woonwagen, and literally translated it's like a living wagon. It was like to fun fairs, people would go in this and they lived in this.
My shout out this time goes to Algie, who flies a Sherwood Cub out of Cromer North Reps.
No traffic inbound, all checks are complete. Dolphin 4 Bravo, taking off, runway 04. Have fun.
Golf Romeo Bravo will be joining us shortly.
Golf Romeo Bravo's lining up 04.
Traffic 9 o'clock.
Is cloud base okay, Algie?
Feet above.
Yeah, it's not too bad here. Golf Uniform Bravo switching frequency to Lloyd's radar 119.355. We'll call again on rejoin. Lloyd's radar, this is Golf Sierra Kilo Uniform Bravo. Request.
That's good. Kilo Uniform Bravo, Lloyd's radar, password.
Golf Sierra Kilo Uniform Bravo is a microlight Chroma to Chroma via ACL. Currently northeast North Horsham at 1,700 feet on QNH 1025. Request basic service.
Golf Uniform Bravo, basic service to QNH 1028.
Basic service 1028, Golf Uniform Bravo.
What goes in also comes out.
So every 3 or 4 days I have to drive the tuk-tuk, as we call it, up to the top of the field to the mucky. It's a rather primitive device, powered by a 2 horsepower Lister engine. The interesting thing is you can advance the throttle. It doesn't make you go any faster, it just makes the engine louder. It's got 1 reverse gear, 2 forward gears, but it's one of those clutches which is either on or off. The young rabbits practicing their burrowing skills beside the mucky.
Gloves are back on and the fun begins.
And now I'm going to shatter those beautiful countryside sounds.
Hi, it's Good Friday. I'm sitting in my back garden. We've done the horses. I spent a little bit of time with Dad. I would have probably been back down and helping him this afternoon in the garden, but he knows the reasons why we're trying to keep our distance. 3-4 weeks in, and it's not easy. None of it's easy. But you hear these horrific stories of families that can't be with their loved ones because they've been taken into intensive care. Heard one this morning of a doctor that was pleading for people to stay in because their job is looking after those people that are dying. And we're still talking about hundreds of people every day. Yet, sitting here in my garden, watching a red admiral butterfly, I know that by the time I turn the camera around, it's going to have gone. But I've filmed some of the early signs of spring in the garden, with bees, with the bluebells, with the cherry blossom, and other bits and pieces I don't know the names of. But in many ways, life is still going on.
Yeah.
There was no worry because the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy
Yeah.
are all key workers, so
Yeah.
they don't have to stay home because of the coronavirus.
Wow.
They can out,
Yeah.
but they just have to be careful and they have to work on a different,
Yeah.
you know, like the nurses and everything. So the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy
Yeah.
are the same as...
The doctors and nurses and the dustmen.
Oh, no, the Tooth Fairy is a key worker, so the Tooth Fairy can go into houses. Imagine, do you reckon the Tooth Fairy has to wear a mask? You know, like the Tooth Fairy is normally just like fly in.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have thought so, because the other thing about them both is they've got very special magic. So there you are. That will keep them safe.
He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it that you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." And she turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher.
As we see our normal lives stripped away, we pray for those facing real challenges. Our faith can help us navigate these strange times.